1966 was a model of participatory journalism based on extended travels with the motorcycle gang, whose members beat Thompson nearly to death when they found out he was a reporter. But Thompson recovered and shot to literary fame with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a 1971 fictionalized account of his exploits covering a district attorney's convention in Sin City.
There is nothing in the world more helpless and irresponsible and depraved than a man in the depths of an ether binge.
With its outlaw road trip humor, machine gun narrative of Thompson's fiendish alcohol and drug use, and surreal and arresting illustrations by artist Ralph Steadman, Fear and Loathing became a bestseller, a cult classic, and over time, a literary classic, recognized as such by the modern library. Immortalized by actor Johnny Depp on the big screen in 1998, Thompson also inspired the 1980 Bill Murray film Where the Buffalo Roam.
Down, Rocco, he's mine.
Thompson's persona also gave rise to the shrewd and vicious Doonesbury character Uncle Duke. In subsequent books, like Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72, Thompson perfected the highly opinionated blend of fact and fiction he called gonzo journalism. Ben Fong Torres worked with Thompson during his early 70s heyday at Rolling Stone magazine.
He had such enormous impact because he not only involved himself in the story, but he painted this portrait of himself as this kind of a drug-addled, crazed, depressive, maniacal person put in that situation by outside forces, whether it was his lawyer or society at large or the political system.
Fong Torres recalled that no one really edited Thompson's work per se.
It was more coddling, nursing, browbeating, and begging than editing his work. A page would come through, and usually with nothing on it, or a paragraph cursing the editors of Rolling Stone for making his life so miserable.
Friends say Thompson started every day with a shot of Chivas Regal whiskey and a blast of cocaine, that he'd been ill over the last year, spending time in a wheelchair and becoming depressed, and that he had put his affairs in order before using one of the hundreds of guns he owned to take his own life. Thompson killed himself the same way that one of his idols, Ernest Hemingway, did, and in one of his first published pieces back in 1964, Thompson explored Hemingway's suicide in Ketchum, Idaho, and concluded with words that could apply equally to Thompson himself. Quote, "He was an old, sick, and very troubled man, and the illusion of peace and contentment was not enough for him. So finally, and for what he must have thought the best of reasons, he ended it with a shotgun." Britt.
That's a tough transition to our nightly roundup of celebrity and entertainment news, keeping tabs. He was an old, sick, and very troubled man, and the illusion of peace and contentment was not enough for him, the writer began. So finally, and for what he must have thought the best of reasons, he ended it with a shotgun. That was Hunter S. Thompson writing 40 years ago about the suicide of Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway took his own life with a gun in Ketchum, Idaho. Thompson did it yesterday at Woody Creek, Colorado. The creator of gonzo journalism and author of the timeless Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was 67 years old. Hemingway did not even make it to 62. In the introduction to Collected Works, published in 1978, Thompson joked about leaping from an office window. He once told George Plimpton that he imagined meeting death in a flaming car crash. A longtime friend said Thompson had been in pain after back surgery and the installation of an artificial hip, and had just broken a leg as well. Sadness, too, on Broadway and in the...
Slides, sinkholes, and flooding. Mother Nature pounding Southern California with record-breaking rain. We're going to go there live, where a woman was rescued from... and went his own shocking way for the last time. Ordinary people may aspire to a ripe old age, but Hunter S. Thompson evidently didn't. At 67, he took his own life. He was a character big enough for the movies, certainly. Bill Murray played him in Where the Buffalo Roam, and Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro were halves of him in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, 2 films based on books he wrote. Reporters aren't supposed to intrude on the stories they cover. Hunter S. Thompson did more than just intrude. He became the story. Reporters aren't supposed to let their feelings show. He broke that rule as well. Reporters generally try to be above reproach. Hunter S. Thompson said, and I quote, "I hate to advocate drugs, alcohol, violence, or insanity to anyone, but they've always worked for me." He launched himself into America to tell a different sort of truth altogether. Boozy, blurred, as outraged as outrageous. Gonzo journalism, he called it. How, after all, to tell the story of a crazy time without partaking of the craziness. He lived in an armed compound and carried a gun, which yesterday he used to himself, on himself, as if to settle an old score. It is somehow unsurprising that Hunter S. Thompson's final showdown will be with none other than himself. I'm Anderson Cooper. Thanks for watching this expanded edition of 360. Up next, Larry King Live.
Yeah, well, there's.
You know what, though?
But, you know, he really.
It couldn't have been all peaches and cream.
I think there was Hunter Thompson, and then there was a character, Hunter Thompson, and I think for a long time he was playing the character of Hunter Thompson. The real Hunter Thompson was the guy who.
Johnny, long live the doctor.
Yeah.
He was the best political writer of the 20th century. God bless him.
Funny. His heart in the American dream, it's like it begins with his lawyer pouring beer on himself to enhance his tan. And that's somebody who's funny. He doesn't take himself seriously.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas made me laugh out loud harder than any book I've ever read in my life.
And we should have more political pundits who are that hilarious.
All right, Hunter, R.I.P. Up next, Oscar Chef.